Forget to put your mask on. All right, we're good to go. All right, let me set up the camera. You can watch me spread this on that lawn. Hello there. Welcome back to the next video in this series where I'm showing you what it is that I do to my lawn to get the results that I get. If we're just meeting, my name is Jay, and today is a pretty special day in the lawn care season. Pretty important. Today is Pre-Emergent Day. And if you've been following the series, you'll remember that the previous video was where I covered the topic of scalping the lawn. And in that video, I talked about the two big benefits that come from scalping. First one is by removing that layer of dead yellow grass, you're making it easier for warm sunlight to get to the soil, warmer air to circulate around the soil. And that's important because that raises the soil temperature, and that's what signals the grass to start waking up, start greening up. The other big benefit that comes from scalping is that by removing that layer of yellow grass, you're making it easier for your pre-emergent to get down to the soil. And that's where we want it. That's where the pre-emergent herbicide works, in the soil. Not on the grass, in the soil, right? So that's what we're doing today. It's that time of year. And so with that in mind, let's get right to it. Let's cover a few basic things about pre-emergence, and then we'll get to applying it on my lawn. The first thing we should establish is, what is a pre-emergent? A pre-emergent is an herbicide, and by definition, an herbicide is a substance that is toxic to plants. In this case, we're talking about an herbicide that targets lawn weeds, right? We're talking dandelion, crabgrass, goosegrass, etc., etc., etc. All the common weeds that we all get in our lawn. That leads us to the why. Why should I apply a pre-emergent? That one's really easy. The answer lies in the specific term pre-emergent. This herbicide targets weeds before they grow in the lawn. And along that same line of thinking, there is this other herbicide called a post-emergent, and that's the one that kills weeds after they've grown in. But today we're talking about pre-emergence, where we are taking a proactive, offensive measure to combat weeds before they're even a problem. But it's also worth noting that there is no herbicide, there is no pre-emergent that can guarantee 100% effectiveness. Some weeds are going to break through. However, if your pre-emergent catches 50% of the weeds that you would have had you not used pre-emergent, I still think that's a pretty important application to do. Now let's try to answer a very important question. When do you apply your pre-emergent? That's a two-part answer. Let's keep it simple. The first part is there's two general times of year that you want to use a pre-emergent, in the spring and in the fall. And the other part of the answer has to do with soil temperatures. Just like grass likes warmer soil temperatures to start waking up and growing and greening up, the same thing applies to weeds. And so we put down a pre-emergent as our soil temperature starts to get into that range so that we catch the weeds before they germinate. And the general understanding is that certain weeds start to germinate around that 55-degree soil temperature. We want to put down our pre-emergent before we get there. So we're talking maybe 50-degree soil temperatures, so that by the time we start to average 55, our pre-emergent is already watered into the soil, activated, ready to go. In the spring, we apply it as temperatures go up. So we want to catch the weeds that grow in that sweet spot. We do it in the fall too. As the temperatures fall, we're going to catch the weeds as the soil temperatures pass in that weed sweet spot. Now, having covered what we've covered about pre-emergence, let's get down to it. Which one do I get? Which pre-emergent do I need for my lawn? For the purposes of this video, let's keep it simple. Let me just tell you right now, the two most popular pre-emergent herbicides that DIY lawn care guys are using are Prodiamine and dithiopyr. I've also heard that last one pronounced dithiopyr. I don't think there's a definitive ruling on that. I don't even think the professionals in the industry agree that it's one or the other. I've heard pros say dithiopyr. I've heard other pros say dithiopyr. I say dithiopyr. I will be using Prodiamine today, and we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's answer one final question so I can finally get out on my lawn and apply my spring pre-emergent. How do you apply your pre-emergent to your lawn? You've got two options. One, a push spreader. You've seen these at the big box stores, right? The other option is to spray your applications with a backpack sprayer. Both of them have their advantages and disadvantages. One major advantage of using a granular spreader is that barrier to entry is pretty low. They're inexpensive to get, and on top of that, the granule version of the herbicide or fertilizers or fungicides, whatever you want to put on your lawn, it's easier to find at those same big box stores. The disadvantage with a granular spreader is that they can be a little inaccurate. You might walk too slow, you might walk too fast. Maybe the spreader isn't spreading it out evenly. Some of those granules wind up on the sidewalk, on the driveway, on the street because it throws too far. Maybe they wind up in parts of your lawn you don't want them in. You're not really in control. Your spreader's gonna throw it out wherever it wants to throw it out. But not a knock on the granular. I think we all start here. I think it's a really safe, goof-proof method. All right, I got my boots on, got my gloves on. Let's get going. So we're gonna start off with applying the granular pre-emergent. We need a scale to measure out how much we're gonna put out so that we're accurate, right? We need our sprayer. I've got my mask, so I'll be ready to go. I haven't touched anything, right? So I'm okay with scratching my face. Once I touch it, right, you gotta use a rag or something. I will be using Lesco Stonewall. Stonewall is really just what they use to call their Prodiamine, Stonewall. The application rate is 8 pounds per 1,000 square feet for the year. That means that for the whole year, you can't use more than 8 pounds per every 1,000 square feet of lawn. It's understandable why someone would look at the rate and go, oh, 8 pounds per 1,000 square feet. I know how to do that much. Let's get 8 pounds in here. Let's throw it into the hopper and let's spread it on my 1,000 square foot lawn. Okay, you can do that. However, a smarter approach that's pretty popular in the lawn care community is doing split apps. So instead of doing all 8 pounds at once, you can do 4 pounds now and 4 pounds 6, 8, 10 weeks later. There is more recent research, and I'm talking legit research, right? And I'm not trying to sound like a scholar, like I've read 1,000 studies or anything like that, but I've read a few on the topic. And what's getting real traction in the pro turf community is multiple applications with lower doses. So they're still putting out the same amount, they're just putting less of it in more applications. So while you're safe going with 2 applications, 4 pounds now, 4 pounds later, that makes your 8 pounds for the year, you could go less and do more applications. Now, here's where this channel kind of diverges a little bit. As I've said, this channel exists to show you what it is that I do. Now, I am not on the fringes. I am not a more guy, and there's plenty of those cowboys out there, and I'm not the, well, let's go organic and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. I'm not knocking either one, but for me, I've been experimenting with lowering my doses. I do reduce rates of everything I apply to my lawn, and I still get the results that I want. But I have learned that I don't need to use all 8 pounds. So what I've been doing every year over multiple years is I've been reducing my rate, and I'm still having the same results. Now, that could be because, as I mentioned in my first video, I'm a pro at hand pulling weeds. I'm a pro. If I see a weed, I pull it. So maybe that's part of it also. But still, the point is, I didn't need to use 8 pounds. If I'm doing some of that and the herbicide is doing some of it as well, well, then between the two of us, we're taking care of my weed problem, right? And that's the whole point. That's the goal. So for me, instead of going with 2 split apps, right? 4 pounds now, 4 pounds later, I've actually worked my way down. I'm going to shoot more for 3 pounds now, and I'll do the 3 pounds a little bit later on. So let's just get to it, right? I have the container that I'm going to use to hold or to weigh the herbicide that I'm going to use. Put it on your scale. Scale's off, right? Now turn on your scale so that it's zeroed out with the container on it already. Okay. I got my scooper that I'm going to use to scoop the herbicide out of the bag to put in here that I will then dump into the spreader. Okay, now let's get to the application rate. So again, I said I'm going to be using 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet. You need to know your square footage. 2 ways you can figure it out very easily. You can walk it, length times width. That'll give you the square footage. Or you could go to Google Earth. You type in your address. It'll bring up an overhead satellite image of your property, right? You'll see your roof and then your property around it. There's a little ruler tool. If you click on that little ruler tool, it'll let you use your mouse to draw or outline or trace parts of your lawn, your entire property, your roof. If you're ever trying to find out how much shingle you need for your roof, you can actually use Google Earth to do that. And it's actually pretty accurate. I've done mine the long way, actually measured it, done the math and gotten a number. And when I went to Google, it's pretty close. So it's definitely a good product to use. So trace out parts of your lawn, right? Try and stick to areas that are like 1,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet, 2,000, 4,250. Try and stick to those kinds of sizes because it's easier to remember those. It'll be harder to remember like 1,183. Now, if you get one of those numbers, just round it up, 1,200. Round up or round down, whichever you need to do to get to a rounder number that's easier to remember. My front yard, the turf area that I'm going to treat with this pre-emergent is 1,600 square feet. So what you do is you take the 1,600, you convert that to 1.6, okay? If you have 3,200 square feet that you want to treat, then you convert that to 3.2. If you have 5,400 square feet, then you go 5.4. In this case, I have 1,600 square feet, so 1.6 times the application rate. So if that's 5 pounds, times 5. If that's 6 pounds, times 6. I'm using 3 pounds of this product. So 1.6 times 3, and I get 4.8 pounds. So I need 4.8 pounds from that bag to go in here, that will then go in here, and then I need to spread that 4.8 pounds throughout the whole lawn. You need to be able to time it so that when you're done walking your lawn, you're done with the product. One other piece of crucial information is know your spreader settings, right? Every spreader has this dial that you can use to adjust how much the dispersion holes open and close. So if they're really open, they're dropping more of the granules down into the impeller that is then putting out more product. Or you can set it so that it's a more closed hole, and that means it's putting out less product. Every spreader is a little different, but the bag will have a suggested setting for the more commercially available spreaders. If you have a Scott's, yeah, pretty much every fertilizer you buy at a big box store is gonna have a setting for a Scott's. I'm using a Lesco, and I'm using a Lesco product, so it's got a Lesco setting on it, so good for me, right? The setting was 16, so I go back on the dial back over here and I set it to 16. And all that means now is that by the time I finish walking my lawn, spreading this product, by the time I get to the end, I should have no product left. That's ideal. You want to make sure you make whatever necessary adjustments you need to make so that by the time you're done, your hopper is empty. So I need 4.8 pounds from that bag to go in here, that will then go in here, and then I need to spread that 4.8 pounds throughout the whole lawn in one pass. I got my cup, and again, I'm shooting for 4.8 pounds. So scooping some herbicide out, some of the Prodiamine. There we go. That's 4.8 pounds. You got to convert that to ounces. So ounces, that's probably going to be like 13, right? So 4 and 13 ounces. And again, that 13 ounces comes from, there's 16 ounces to a pound, right? So 0.8 be in that 13 ounce range. So I'm at 4 pounds, 7 ounces, 9, 10, 11, 12. There it is. You can turn that off. This goes in my hopper. Make sure you're off. Always make sure that your spreader is turned off. So, you just saw me do the application of the front yard, right? 1,600 square feet, 1.6 times the application rate. In my case, 3 pounds. Now I have to do the application rate for the backyard. In the backyard, I have 3,250 square feet of turf. Don't count your flower beds. Don't count any mulched tree areas or anything like that. You're talking about treating your turf, right? There are pre-emergents for flower beds and tree areas and all that stuff. But for right now, we're treating our turf. So in the backyard, I have 3,250 square feet of grass. So using that same conversion that we used earlier where we took 1,600 and went 1.6, well in the back, because I have 3,250, I'm going to go 3.250, right? 3.25 times the application rate of 3 pounds. So 3.25 times 3. And that gives me 9.75 pounds. Okay, that's how much I need from the bag into the hopper. The goal isn't to just get 9.75 into the hopper and spread it on the lawn. It's spread it on the lawn evenly. You don't want to go too heavy-handed on one side, too light on the other. You might see damage if you over-apply, but you might see weeds if you under-apply. Which again, under-applying is not a problem because you can always hand pull weeds, but you're trying to be as surgical as you can. So 9.75 pounds. And again, 0.75 isn't 75 ounces. It's 3/4 of a pound, right? So 12 ounces. So I need 9 pounds, 12 ounces. Okay, that is 5 and almost 16 ounces. So that's almost 6 pounds. So make sure your hopper is off, right? Your spreader is off. So we just did 6 pounds. I need 3 pounds, 12 ounces more.
Hope I'm not talking too fast. Am I talking too fast now? No.
Good. All right, there's 3.5, 3.6. I need to get to 3.12. That is 9 pounds, 12 ounces, or 9.75 pounds in the hopper. Now it's time to go spread this in the backyard. You know, as I'm walking the lawn with the spreader right now, I realized I haven't cleaned up the flower beds yet. Pretty soon I need to get out here, clean off all the dead stuff. Whatever looks like it didn't make it over the winter, take it out, replace it. You'd be surprised though, how much of this stuff does come back. I've been surprised sometimes where I've been late to replanting new stuff. By the time I get to it, it starts to grow. Pretty cool to see it happen. So I'll get out here pretty soon and start trimming all the yellow stuff off the flower beds in the back and in the front. All right. Well, I hope this stuff is informative. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to use the comment section. I kind of cringe a little bit when I say that because now I sound like a YouTube guy. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I'm a reluctant YouTuber But I just want to share the information with you guys. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. I'm curious to know how this is going, how this is translating to you guys. You know, you hear these YouTube guys say, pound the thumbs up or pound the like or whatever. How about you just caress the thumbs up? So let's wrap this up. I got a storm rolling in. I think you can hear the thunder a little bit, some of the raindrops, which is kind of perfect. I just put down my pre-emergent. This rain, if it's the right kind of rain, will water it in a little bit. So good timing on my part. Lucky sometimes how that works. Anyway, my name is Jay, here to help you guys out. Share the video if you think there's anybody out there that would gain some knowledge, some encouragement, some confidence from watching another DIYer, figure this stuff out. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.